It works like this. I know what some of you may be thinking. You may be thinking, I'm not interested in heart health, right? I'm perfectly healthy. I don't need to know anything about heart health. Well, I'm here to tell you, I confess I felt the exact same way you did before I heard these secrets. It changed my life so much. It made me so passionate, I wanted to share it with everyone. And so that's what I'm here to talk about today. Okay, I attack it and then I confess. What does that do, guys? Here's the why behind it. By confessing, you say, hey, I'm just like you. I'm not way up here on the stage and you're down here in the audience. We're both in the same place. I'm just like you. Okay, you put yourself on the same level as them. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Step 4. Right? We talked about this. The hell if you don't. Create a virtual hell. If they don't follow through on whatever it is you're asking them to follow through on, right? They're going to continue to feel this pain that you've created. You don't want them to continue in pain. You want them in heaven, right? Or nexus, right? Or nirvana, or whatever it is you want to call it, right? A good, happy state. So create a heaven if they do follow through. These are all the features and benefits that will happen to your life if you understand my material, if you follow through, if you take action, if you buy something, whatever it is you're talking about. All right? Yeah?
Okay. How can you help a person who is a tobacco or a cigar user? You never smoke a cigar. You don't like cigar. You think that they are awful. And I believe that people who know how damage they do and still smoking, they are very dumb.
Visuals. Visuals. Okay? Here's how you utilize that situation. You create visuals. You create the visuals of the outcome if they continue, and the visuals of the outcome if they don't. Perhaps the visuals of someone who's abusing tobacco or drug or alcohol or whatever it is, something that's going to hurt them down the line. You create the visuals of how their life is going to be. And perhaps those visuals come up in 10 different pictures, one after another. The first visual is of them ending up in the hospital. The second is them having hurt family members or friends. Right? The second is of them, maybe if they're a drug user, they lost their job, right? Financial law, and all these things create this hell. And then the heaven, if you do, down the line, you're 90 years old and it shows a picture of them still playing with their grandchildren because they're still alive, right? The heaven, if you do.
This is my question. I didn't myself clearly. How you can create a rapport or empathy with somebody who you have nothing in common.
Right.
How do you do it?
What are you talking about? What's your subject matter?
Let's put it in the same level.
Right.
Okay, let's all together be in the same level. How can you create empathy and be in the same level with somebody who has something that you don't do, something that you don't do?
Right. So, what's your subject matter?
Tobacco, for example. A person is smoke tobacco and you don't do it. So how can you go to the same level?
Okay, so they don't smoke.
No, I don't smoke. They smoke.
Right.
So how can I go to the same level to help them?
Okay, so what do you want them to do? You want them to quit smoking?
Yes.
Right, that's the outcome. And what happens if they quit smoking?
Oh, they're going to be healthy.
Okay, and what does that mean if they quit and they're healthy? How do they feel if they're healthy?
They're happy.
It's an emotion, right? So you're not selling quitting smoking, you're selling happiness.
Oh, I see.
So you create, this is what your life will look like by following through on what I'm asking you to do. And by the way, this is what your life will look like if you don't. Okay, create some pain. If they don't feel pain, they're not going to change, right? Right? So you have to create that pain. It's absolutely imperative. 6, ask for action. All right? Now, some of you may be saying, Nick, I speak on a subject that is merely informational. Okay? It's merely informational. I'm not really asking them to do anything. I'm just giving them information. Okay? What do you want them to do with that information? Okay? You're not just giving information for the fun of it, right? You want them to know these things and take action on them. Well, we talked about the power of 3. Here's what I will ask you to add to any time you are speaking. If you are saying, for example, give me a subject matter that you're speaking on that you may just be doing information. Depression. Okay, so you're not asking them to do anything. You're just saying, I'd like to talk to you about depression and how it affects you. Here's what I would add to that. At the end, say, here, to recap, here are 3 things you can do to take action today on the information that we talked about. In other words, to avoid depression, to help someone that is in depression, or to make sure that you don't fall into depression. Right? Those are the 3 actions that you're asking them to do, and have 3 concise strategies. Okay? You always want to have them take action on something. Why? Because your speech will be more memorable if they know they have to do something with that information. Otherwise, you were just an entertaining interlude during their day, right? Questions on any of these steps, on how they would be applicable to you specifically? Yeah?
It's not a question, but it's just a comment. It's funny because some of the speakers that I hear, that I remember their speech, specifically, you can go back to them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. This is a step. This is anyone that you've ever seen that you thought was a great speaker. I guarantee you they implemented all 6 of these steps at some point or another, in some way, shape, or form. Okay? That's what got you to remember it, and that's what got you to take action on whatever information it was that they gave you. Right? That's what made the difference, those 6 things.
What are your typical take action things? Like just, since I'm not...
Here's what you need to do today, here's what you need to do next month, and here's what you need to do in the next 12 months. All right? Or it could be, here's what you need to do tomorrow, here's what you need to do this month, here's what you need to do in the next 3 months. Give them timelines. Right? If you don't give people timelines, guess what they do? Nothing. Nothing. Because you know what it becomes? The manana syndrome. I'll get to it mañana, tomorrow. Right? So give them a deadline. I need you to do this by tomorrow. Why? It's not for me, it's for you. Because the one who's not going to lose isn't me, it's going to be you. Right? Create some pain at the end, too, if they don't do it. And then you give them a timeline. Questions on that? Okay. So, how do you establish control and pace right from the start? Real simple, guys. You take control of the room from the very beginning. You ask for their attention, number 1. I cannot tell you how many speakers I've seen, they come to the front of the room, and the audience is chanting, and they say, ladies and gentlemen, and they start talking, and everyone keeps chatting. Okay? Open the room up with passion. Okay? The way that I used to open my rooms up, regardless of what kind of information I was talking about, I would always open like this. How many people have ever been on a diet? Show of hands right now. How many people have ever been on a diet? And I would do it at that volume, too. Okay? Does a couple things. Number 1, I'm immediately asking for engagement from them. I'm not telling them something, I'm asking a question. Hey, you, I'm talking to you. I want to know about you. You're important. I care about you. It's not about me. Right, number 2, it had passion, it was exciting. And number 3, they're wondering, why the heck is he asking me that? This is supposed to be a business conference. Right? I created some mystery. You want to create mystery. How do you create mystery? Use analogies. I'll give you.
It didn't matter what topic you were about to talk about,
Nope.
You mentioned a diet.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay.
Everybody's on a diet.
And let me give you the analogy right now. If you guys like it, you are free to steal it. Okay? This is how the analogy worked. And you guys can play along with me. So, how many people in the room have ever been on a diet? Show of hands. Right now. Almost all of us. Okay. Now, show of hands. Anyone that's ever been on a diet that actually worked? Show of hands. I usually get 1 or 2 hands, however big the audience. I say, good. What I would venture to say about those 1 or 2 people that said they were on a diet that worked, they didn't go on a diet. They changed their lives, right? They started to eat healthy and exercise forever. Well, it's the same in your life. It's the same in your business, whatever subject matter I'm speaking about. Okay, let's say it's business. I would say it's the same in your business. Okay, you need to stop going on diets for your business and change the way your business works forever. All right? I could do it about health, guys. I could say, if you want to get healthy forever, then stop going on diets because that's a temporary solution to a permanent problem. Right?
Right.
Okay? That's how you engage an audience. Ask them a question that takes them out of their comfort zone a little bit. All right?
What about, like, when you're up there, I'm just gonna give you two different scenarios. You're up there and you're speaking and you're trying to be as engaging as you are, and you find somebody off in the corner being a distraction. Either they're, there's noise going on with their cell phone or whatever, or the other scenario that you are giving personal examples, and in the crowd, a ton of people are relating to that, and that starts little side chatters. Has that ever happened?
Yes, I would bring attention to both. Now, if someone has, for example, like we've had today, one or two people where their phone went off. Okay, once in a while a phone is going to go off. That's not the end of the world. Okay, now if it's the same person and their phone goes off 3-4 times, say, you know what, ladies and gents, I hear a couple of phones going off. I want to make sure that you get the most juice out of the info today. So go ahead right now and let's just shut off any distractions. I'm going to do the same thing. Pull out your phone. Say, I'm not asking you to do anything differently than I'm doing myself. Okay, so I'm at your level. And by the way, if you don't want to take questions, let's say you're talking to a big group, guys, if you have any thoughts, questions, concerns, doubts, go ahead and jot those things down and I'll chat with you one-on-one, but I want to make sure I respect everyone's time today. Okay, now if it starts side conversations, your other question. You open up a piece of information, right, and it starts a bunch of side conversations. Call out the pink elephant. Now, I know I probably started a bunch of side conversations. I can hear them going on right now. Guys, let's wrap back up because that's good. That means there's energy and you guys are interested. Now I'm going to show you the next thing that you don't want to miss. Okay? And here's why you want to add that. Guys, start watching your local and national news intently. Why? Not for the content. Look at the positioning. Coming up next, we're going to show you 3 ways to do this. Coming up next, we have the story of a man that overcame death. Coming up next, right? They keep, I want to see it, right? My next piece of information is something you don't want to miss. All right? Keep them engaged. So that's how you wrap them back up. Call the pink elephant out. Say, hey, I know you guys are talking. Let's get back together. All right? You don't want to just avoid it because then they'll just keep talking. Then they say, all right, he's right. I'm having a side conversation. It's time for me to listen again. And take control of the room. Take control of the room. Okay? Get their permission to educate them. This is key, guys. In fact, this may actually be the most important thing I talk about today. This one small point. Ask for their permission to educate them. Here's why. This goes back to your comment earlier about hecklers or people that become poisons in the room. Now you have ammunition to shut them down. If someone says, I disagree with what you're saying right now. In fact, I don't think that makes sense, and I don't think that's going to work. Well, sir, I'm so glad you actually brought that up. So earlier on, I asked for everyone's permission to be their coach, right? Let me be your coach for a second. Is it all right if I'm your coach for a second? Right? Ask for they already gave you their permission earlier on, and now you can say, now I'm going to tell you how it really is, right? And all of a sudden, they can't argue anymore because they gave you their permission to be their coach, to be their mentor, to be someone that offers advice and suggestions, right?
Yes.
Questions on that, on positioning? Thoughts on how you might do that for your particular situation? Because there's always going to be people that disagree, yes?
Yes.
Right? Okay. Let's move on. So, get the distractions turned off. We talked about that. Make sure you ask them. Go ahead and shut your cell phones off right now. It's not so bad in a small group like this, but if you have a big group, you definitely want to say, go ahead and shut their distractions off at this point. That way it doesn't happen. And the best way to do it is, again, to show them what you want them to do. Have your cell phone like this and say, guys, I'm going to go ahead and shut off my cell phone right now. If everyone will do the same thing, that way we respect everyone's time and we get the most juice out of this and we don't have any distractions. Fair enough? Ask them if it's fair. They'll all say yes. Now you've got their agreement. Okay, you're getting their agreement slowly throughout the entire presentation. Okay?
I've seen sometimes when people are giving seminars or even church service where the people are some of the people in the crowd are visibly like, I am not going to give my time to this. This is, and they, some of them respectfully, they bow out, and others, you could see that the speaker's eyes are going to like this entire group of people that just walked out the door. And my heart sinks for them, just like if they were nervous, your heart sinks for them.
Right.
And how does a speaker recover when they realize they're losing their audience?
Right. Here's how I would suggest that happens. Let's say you're speaking to a group of 50 people, okay? And for one reason or another, you're not sure why, 10 people just left, okay? Call out the pink elephant. And here's how you do it elegantly, okay? Because you want to make sure you don't say, those losers that just walked out, right? You want to be elegant. You say, folks, if I can step back for just a minute, I want to bring your attention to something. You may have noticed a couple people just walked out, right? Maybe they thought this wasn't for them. I want to tell everyone in the room, congratulations right now. Why? Because there's always a few that aren't up for the challenge. Okay? So congrats to everyone right now who is, because it's the few that do versus the many that won't or can't. And right now it looks like we're down to the people that will. All right? So congrats to everyone. Right? That's how you do it elegantly. Yeah.
But what you've done is just actually challenge them.
Yeah.
You put out a challenge to them.
Yeah. Well, here's what else I did. I made sure that almost nobody else is going to walk out, right? Because now they're going to say, I'm not up to the challenge, and step out. No one's going to do that, right?
One of my mentors told me something, and I thought it was a little rude, but he was a bit arrogant when he told me, so you go to sell this landscape job and so forth, and then you meet everything, and the guy's still there. He says, you know what? That was my last straw. I challenged him. And I said, well, maybe you can't afford it.
If I can interrupt you for a second, I would avoid, because I don't want to go down the road of challenging. Don't challenge the crowd in an adversarial way, because what that does, guys, is break rapport. Okay? You don't ever want to break rapport. So I never challenged anyone. In fact, I congratulated them.
Right.
I said, congrats, you guys are the few. Okay? If I challenge the crowd, then what happens? This. Right? I get them to cross their arms, and they're saying, I don't know if Nick's on my side. Right? I don't want him to call me out, right? It doesn't hurt for me to mention the people that have left. Yes, you don't want to challenge people because that breaks rapport. You never want to break rapport, okay? You just want to ask leading questions, and that really gets to the core of what it is they may be struggling with, okay? So, what are you qualified to be teaching? This is a question I'm going to ask everybody in the room right now. What do you think it is that you're qualified to teach people about? Because that's what we're doing as speakers, right? What are you qualified to be teaching? What are you qualified to be teaching? What do you think?
Proper pruning, tree care.
Right, but you're stepping in front of an audience. Is that what you're talking about? At your clubs? Yeah?
That's a good time.
Okay. And do you feel that you're an expert at that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So that's a good starting point. What are you qualified to be teaching?
I'm qualified to be teaching about trauma, different aspects of trauma.
Okay. And I feel that from you guys. Like, you feel very confident in those things. What are you qualified to? Excellent. No hesitation, right? What are you qualified to be teaching?
Meditation, Chinese medicine, acupuncture, Reiki, nutrition.
Excellent. See, you notice there was no hesitation from any of you about what you were qualified to teach. Why are you qualified? And I'm not talking about degrees. I'm talking about, why do you think that you're more qualified than the next person? Yeah.
Experience, years of exploring that area.
Right. So now, you know all those things in your head. That gives you confidence. But what will make the audience think that you're qualified? What do you think the audience needs to?
What Rosemary said in her 20-second blurb, she said, I'm a cancer survivor.
Good. Personal story. Okay, personal story. I've been through it. I can share my experience. That is huge. Why? It humanizes you.
Yeah.
You're no longer talking about content. You're talking about a human, and people want to hear human stories. right? Write that down. That's number one that gives you credibility to educate someone. A personal story. Here's what it is not, guys. And I know you think it may be, or you may have heard otherwise. It is not an MBA, or a PhD, or an MD, or a DO, or an RN, or any of these titles or acronyms that go at the end of your name. Right? That doesn't give you credibility. Why? Because you still don't have rapport with the audience. Okay? That you still don't have a rapport with an audience. In fact, I know multi-millionaire speakers, okay, many times over, who never graduated from high school.
That's right.
And they have instant rapport and credibility. Why? Personal story and relevance. They are relevant to the audience's need. Relevant to an audience need. How do you get the audience need? Do you guys remember? How do you find out what the audience needs?
Hold them.
Pull them, pain. How do we do all that? 3 letters in a word.
Feel.
What was it again?
Feel,
That stand for
feel,
again?
found.
Feel, felt, found. Yes, 3 letters. Feel, felt, found.
Feel,
Okay.
felt.
Felt, found. I understand how you feel. In fact, a lot of my audiences felt the same way that you may feel right now, but what they found was fill in the blank.
Say that one more time. I understand.
I understand how you feel. A lot of my audiences, in fact, most of my audiences, or all of my audiences, felt the same way that you probably feel right now. In fact, I can attack and confess right now. I probably felt the same way that you feel right now at one time. But what I found was fill in the blank. Okay. That will definitely put you in control of the room. It will change everything. It will change the game. It will change your buying criteria in terms of what they buy into, of what you say. Okay? Gives you a ton of credibility. Okay? Making sure your audience actually understands what you're saying. How do you do that? How do you find out if your audience is...
And that's it.
Question and answer, and how do we do that? Give me an example. Yeah.
Everybody with me so far?
Great. Ask. Sometimes the easy answers elude us, right? You need to ask on a regular basis. Are you with me? Right? Show of hands if you're with me. Say I if everyone understands what I'm talking about. Okay? Say I if you are clueless right now. Ask that question too. If you want to get your audience engaged, you got to find out immediately. Ask. Okay? If the room is getting quiet, call out the pink elephant. It's getting real quiet. Are you guys taking notes or am I going too fast? Right? Ask those kinds of questions. Am I funny? Yes? No? All right. If I'm not funny, I'm going to move on. Yes? All right. I'll keep doing those kinds of things. Right? Those are the kinds of things. It's okay to ask those questions. It's going to separate you from everybody else. Okay?
Nick, I want to share
Yeah.
because this is my second time sort of hearing some of this stuff, because you said the 3 F's last time.
Right.
But you know what's hitting me is that, like, I was trained as a therapist in my early 20s, and I worked as a therapist for the first up until I was 32. But when I was 32, I had children, and I fell into a massive postpartum depression. And for the next 10 years, it was the dumps. And I looked, up until just recently with you, I looked on those years as years of loss. And
It was gain. It was huge gain.
and one of the things that I kept saying to myself is, I used to be in private practice, teaching people, helping people who had depression, yet I didn't know the first thing about what depression really was. And now, it's like that had been my life after those first 2 kids that I had for the longest time. And that is what gives you the passion to be able to guide somebody out of that storm.
And scene. That should be her opening. That should be your opening. When you get up here, that's your opening. Guys, did you feel the humor in her explanation? The personal story?
Yes.
You want to engage your audience? Say that.
That's right.
Okay? What does it offer? It offers one simple thing. It's called social proof. Social proof says, Don't take my word for it, even though I have a personal story. Let me give you the stories of all these other people that had the same thing happen. Now, your personal story is going to make it personal.
Right.
And then you can say, and I'm not the only one. Right? What is social proof? You want to get more people to buy into what you're saying? Say, how many of you guys agree with what I'm talking about right now? And get a show of hands. Okay? If there's a few people that are in disagreement, and everyone else raises their hands, those ones that are secretly disagreeing and are saying, oh, it's social proof, everyone else agrees, maybe I should listen more. Right? It's called social proof. That's right, otherwise known as mob mentality in some circles. Okay? But this is a real thing. This is a real thing. Okay? And what it'll do, ultimately, you want to engage your audience more. Questions on that? I want to make sure I'm not going too fast through some of this material. Okay, let's move forward. So we talked about getting them to say me too instead of so what, all right? Get questions around the room, all right? So let's say you are speaking to a group, a small group like this, say 5 to 12 people, all right? In these situations, I would go around the room and ask specific questions to each person, all right? Why? I'm creating a little bit of this, social proof, all right? And I'm getting them involved, so it's not just me talking. That is a key factor. You don't want to be the only voice in the room. Secondly, if you're speaking to a large group, how many of you would be in a situation where you'd speak to 50 or more people? Okay. Almost most of you. If you haven't yet, you will at some point, right? Now, when you have 50 or more people, you can't go around and ask every single person, so then you have to chunk it down to sections, right? So, left side of the room over here, everybody left of the guy in the red shirt, right? Have some fun with it. Are you guys with me? Yes? Okay, center of the room. What are your thoughts on X, Y, and Z? If you think yes, raise your right hand. If you think no, raise your left hand. Okay, now I'm going to engage the right side of the room. Okay? Ask those questions to the entire audience like in those types of scenarios. Chunk it down. Right? Get them involved. It should not just be you talking. Bring most of the attention back to them. Okay? So, how to intro a third-party guest speaker. You want to do a testimonial, for example, right? How to step back and introduce a third-party guest speaker. Now, I'm going to give you a couple scenarios. Every single one of you are going to want to have a guest speaker at some point or another. In fact, if you can do it every time, I would do it every time. There are 3 types of guest speakers. People remember things in threes, seems